Hi guys. Okay, so today in physics we had a history lesson on the speed of light. And generally I really hate history. I find it extremely boring and I am not very good at it. But for some reason, when we're learning about history in physics, it just becomes so much more interesting. Something about science just makes everything better. So I'm going to tell you about how the speed of light was discovered. Galileo started trying to discover the speed of light. He kind of failed, but what he tried to do was to have someone stand on the top of a mountain with a light source, with a door covering the light source, and he would stand on another mountain with the light source. He'd release his, it'd go to the other mountain. Once the other person saw it, they'd open theirs, and then it would come back, and he'd time that. The problem is that they weren't far enough away, and human reaction time was getting in the way. So he couldn't find a definitive result. The next person was, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, O-L-E space R-O-E-M-E-R. I'll probably butcher his name, so I won't say it out loud. But 70 years after Galileo tried to discover light, or the speed of light, he tried as well. And he was slightly more successful. He didn't calculate the exact value, but he did discover that light did have a speed by looking at Jupiter's moons. What he did was when... I'll put down my notes so I can use my hands. The Earth was here, and the Sun's over here, and Jupiter's out here. This is not a very good model, but bear with me here. And as Jupiter's moon is orbiting around it, he looked at how it was moving, and 6 months later, when the Earth was over here on this side of the Sun, now he noticed that the moon was moving what seemed slower around Jupiter. But what was actually happening was, because the Earth was now so far away and Jupiter hadn't moved that far since it's farther out and the force of gravity is pulling it less, so it has a slower orbit, the distance was farther than it was when the Earth was over here, and therefore the speed of light was no longer negligible, and it actually created a time difference, making the moon appear like it was moving slower. He couldn't calculate the exact value, but he did find out that light did have a speed, which was still a question at the time. The next person was Albert A. Michelson, who I believe my physics teacher said was an American, which is kind of cool. But anyhow, he was the one who finally discovered the exact speed of light. What he did was he went out into a desert and he set up a mirror, and the light would hit the mirror and bounce off, and then it would hit 2 more mirrors and come back to where he was, where it would hit a 4th mirror and come back to him. That was probably really confusing, and you probably didn't understand that at all. But the mirrors over here were on an 8-sided mirror wheel, which he would spin. And if the wheel wasn't, it would hit here, bounce, bounce, and then come back. If the wheel was in the wrong spot, the light wouldn't reflect and be caught back over here. So you know that the wheel wasn't lined up right. But if you got the wheel spinning at the right speed, it would spin 1/8 of a turn, lining the next mirror back up by the time the light got over here. And that's how he discovered that the speed of light was 3 times 10 to the 8 meters per second. That's not actually true, that's kind of rounded. It's more like 2.9999 times, something like that, times 10 to the 8th meters per second, with like an error of plus or minus 0.00004. But that might not be exact. I just know that in physics we tend to round it to 3 times 10 to the 8th meters per second times 10 to the 8 meters per second, because that's how we calculate it without getting too confusing. Now this video is really, really, really long, and I was really, really confusing, so I'm just going to say bye, and I apologize. You might have to look some of this stuff up, because I didn't explain it too well. It's easier with visuals, but I don't have a chalkboard or anything. So, bye guys!